Good morning, everyone. I trust that you are well. Apologies, firstly, that we were not able to be with you yesterday, events beyond my control, but I want to dedicate today's learning in memory of Ami Bas Aryeh, Paul Kazmir, Shaul ben Shlomo, Yomir Ochia ben Moshe Eliezer, Shlomo Yechia ben Moshe Eliezer, ben Zion ben Yitzchak, Aryeh ben Shimon, Bas Faivo, Avram Mordechai ben Moshe Katner, Menashe ben Tzvi Zalman, Ralia Bas Avram Pinkus. Wish all of their respective families long life and only simchas. So it's tricky, isn't it? People are feeling very nervous, anxious, frustrated, a bit down in the dumps. That's what I'm sensing the murmurings. In view of the current climate, many people sadly have got the virus or are nervous about getting the virus. So hopefully, as a result of us coming together, we say at the end of every book, we say at the end of this week's parasha, when we finish the book of Genesis, the book of Bereshit, what are we going to say? We'll stand up and we'll say, Chazak, Chazak, Venit Chazek. And strengthen yourself, and we will be strengthened. The way that we strengthen ourselves is that you strengthen me, and I strengthen you. And then together, Venit Chazek, we together are stronger. So please God, by coming together as we are this morning, we will feel stronger and more confident and a greater faith to be able to deal with all the vicissitudes of life and the challenges that we are all facing. Let me just say good morning, because I don't think I have for a while, to Clarice, Peter, David, Deborah, Michael, Caroline, Estelle, and Carol. Good morning to you all. Lovely to see you. It's wonderful Thursday morning as we head into Erev Shabbos Kodesh, ending the book of Bereshit. So we already mentioned earlier in the week that this is really the swan song. It's the end of the 12 tribes. Jacob passes away. Joseph passes away. The brothers pass away. And afterwards, then that is the beginning of the exile, when we no longer have our leaders of great stature and are able to lead us from the front. Therefore, that's true exile. And one only has to look in our own generation that so often we feel that there is no real leadership. And therefore, we feel exile. Exile, Galus, is described as something that's it's dark. There's uncertainty. There's a lack of direction, right? There's falsehood, deceit, dishonesty. All the things that we are suffering from to this day are signs and symptoms of us being in exile. We know that when Jacob came to bless his son Joseph, he blessed all the other brothers, all the other sons of Jacob, he blessed individually. When it came to Joseph, he says, and you're going to get a double portion. I'm going to bless Ephraim and Manasseh, right, are going to be tribes, are going to be of the stature, of the caliber of Yehuda and Reuven, right? They're going to be of that caliber. In other words, I'm upgrading them, even though they are a generation later. They are going to have the same status, the same portion in the land. I'm going to see them the same as Reuven and Yehuda. And I think that in itself is the greatest blessing, friends, that we could possibly want. You know, so often we see that the next generation, it's all, something's gone, something has fallen away, it's diluted. As generations go by, we see that things aren't quite what they used to be. There isn't the same passion and pride in being Jewish, same commitment, same devotion to our people, to our faith, and it's across the board in all areas and all different types and stripes of Jews. I remember visiting somebody in our community, and he had a picture on the wall of I think it was his great grandfather, and it was a picture of a saintly man with a long beard, and he looked very distinguished and very saintly, and this man proudly told me the man wasn't wearing a kippah, he wasn't particularly religious, and he said to me, "Look, this is my great grandfather." So I said to him, "It's just it would have been, in a way, I would have been much happier had you been on the wall and your great grandfather would be here." In other words, what we want is that each subsequent generation is more committed, deepens its faith, its connection with authentic living, authentic Judaism. That's what it's all about. It's not that we want to always look back at what was, at what came before us. Oh yeah, I can trace my roots back to the distinguished lineage of the Chofetz Chaim, of the Moshe Feinstein. It's not about the past. It's that we build the future. We build a glorious future, and that is on the foundations, on the back of the past. But the greatest nachas that a parent, I hope, can get is when they see their children following in their footsteps and maybe living an even more committed life. I got to tell you, as a parent, it gives me no greater nachas in the world than when one of my kids I see doing something slightly better than me. Right? I'm not perfect, so if one of my kids, is more careful about the way they speak, or I see them that they've learned, or they show me something, we've got to be more careful in this particular area. Papi, why is it we're not doing this? Why? For me, I don't get defensive. I don't get insecure. I don't dismiss them. Quite the opposite. I'm delighted to learn because I want, like Joseph, the greatest blessing that Joseph could have. Joseph wasn't blessed himself. The blessing that Joseph had was through his children. The greatest blessing that we can really have in life is through our children, through our grandchildren. When we see them following in the ways of those that came before us, that is the greatest blessing that we could possibly have. Now, even when we do have that blessing and we do see our children that are thriving and flourishing and doing great things, we should never think that we want our children to be the same, right? The blessing that Jacob gave to his grandsons is the blessing that we give through the course of history. Think about it. We don't bless our children that they should be like Abraham and Isaac, right? We don't bless our children that they should be like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We bless our children that they should be not like the 12 tribes, but like Ephraim and Manasseh. Ephraim and Manasseh, they were on a much lower level, surely. They were only the grandsons of Jacob. Why don't we bless our children to be like Abraham or like Jacob? And the answer is because Ephraim, if we look back at history, you take Abraham and there was tensions in his family. You take Isaac, he had a half-brother, Ishmael. There was rivalry between the brothers. You take Jacob, he had we don't need to even mention Esau, right? Tremendous rivalry and tension and conflict. And then you go to Jacob's other son, his children, Joseph, Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Issachar, Zvulun, everyone. There was always that tension, that angst between them and Joseph and between each other. And therefore, in a sense, that is not the blessing we want to give. Ephraim and Manasseh are unique. Now listen to this. How are they unique? The answer is that Jacob put his right hand, he switched his hands, and he put his right hand, his stronger hand, on Ephraim. Manasseh was the eldest. Joseph tried to remove his hands, right? Joseph was the one that said, Daddy, I know that your eyesight is ailing. I know that your eyesight isn't what it used to be. You're ailing. You got the hands the wrong way around. Your stronger hand should go on Manasseh. He's the eldest. And Jacob knew that Ephraim was going to be even greater, and therefore he needed his right hand to be on him. And yet, what is the blessing? Why do we copy Ephraim and Manasseh? Why do we want our children to emulate in some way to be like Ephraim and Manasseh? We don't want them to be Ephraim and Manasseh, but to emulate and to, in one way, they should be able to follow in the footsteps of Ephraim and Manasseh. And the answer is that these were the first two brothers that were able, as they say in Yiddish, to forgive, to be happy for each other's lot, not to be jealous, to respect the respective places, positions, and roles that each other had. There was no enmity, there was no jealousy, despite the fact that Menashe had every reason. He was the eldest, and yet he took a position one under because he recognized that, in a sense, Ephraim was going to take a greater leadership role in terms of Torah, in terms of passing on the traditions, and therefore he took a position one under. And Menashe wasn't jealous of Ephraim. Ephraim saw in Menashe certain things. He was the Bechor, and he still wasn't jealous of him. So that is the greatest blessing that we give our children. On Friday night, we look around the table, or our grandchildren, and we say, we want you to be like Ephraim and Menashe in two aspects. Number one, that it shouldn't be a descent. There shouldn't be a gap, a generation gap. In other words, between what the grandparents did, what the parents did, what the grandchildren are doing, the grandchildren should live even more committed lives, like Ephraim and Menashe did. They weren't a step down, they were a step up. And the other way is that they were able to respect each other. There was no enmity and no jealousy. There was honor, dignity, respect for one another and their respective roles that they had. So please God, both these blessings of Ephraim and Menashe, they should be able to be something that we are able to infuse, to integrate, to internalize into our children, our grandchildren, and into our own lives. And this virtue of being able to forgive, being able to overlook, to accept, to embrace, to celebrate successes in others, and in particular in our own fold. So often there is that sibling rivalry about, I'm not getting what I want. I tell you a terrible, shocking story. You know, sometimes I do mediations on as I guess a hobby. I do it on the side, and there was a mediation that I did a few years ago, and this story is going to shock you. And there were all these children around the table, and the father was sitting there with the mother, and the father was exceptionally wealthy, and he supported basically the whole family. But there was sibling rivalry, that there was one brother in particular, but some of the others as well, that were murmuring and saying they didn't feel that it was equal. Tati, you're not giving me what I need. He got a bigger house than me. You just rendered the front of his house. I didn't get a holiday. Pesach they got paid for, I didn't get paid for. And it went on and on. We did probably 12 hours, 10 to 12 hours of mediation over 2 days. It was horrendous. And then when this son who really felt strongly he wasn't getting what he was entitled to, quote unquote, you know what he said to his father? Now this is going to shock you, Michael. He said to his own father, he said, Tati, there's two ways that a person can give. You can give in life with warm hands, in other words, when you're alive, or you can give after your death with cold hands. What a shocking thing to say to a father. Nobody owes us anything in life. Nothing. We shouldn't think that anyone, not a spouse, not a parent, not a child, not a partner, whatever it is, nobody owes you anything. Everything is a gift from on high. Everything is a blessing. And when we see it like that, then we will be truly blessed in our lives. May we have shefa and bracha and all the blessings abelidai without limit from the Almighty, and in that way, please God, we'll only hear and see good things, and we'll lead a life of fulfillment, joy, and happiness. Wishing everyone well. Okay, now we'll carry on with the memorial prayer. Adon olamim zacho es nishmai shalchu lilam bami basari Paul Casimir Shal ben Shlomo Yemochi ben Moshe Eliezer. Shlomo ben Sion ben Yitzchak, Ari ben Shimon, Leah Baslava, Avram Monachet ben Moshe Kanem, Menashe ben Sinzalman, Ralev Avram Pinkas, Shalchu lilam man balarachamim nasrim saitzak kanafech lilamim v'tisvochem seshmasam yenuchem shmasam b'shalom v'nama. Amen. Now this the Psalm 23, which I missed out. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Lastly, refuah shlema prayer for all those that are unwell. We wish them all well. Mi sheberach abasein Rabban Yitzchak Yaakov Moshe Aaron David Shlomo Yivarach Rapes Achelim. Babu Shanu Mispalim Babu Ram B'Schaz HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachim Aleihem Lachim Alachasam Yishlach Lehem Push Lehem Nishmaim Nachol Rein B'Soch Shar Yisuyo Rufus Nefesh Usugav Hashem Akas Kurib B'Namar Amen. Wishing everyone well. Look after yourselves. Have a great day. Please God, we'll see you later tonight. I think it's 8 o'clock, 8:15 online for our Parsha Shir. More and more content, I suspect, will be going online. Schools are preparing to go online for January. But either way, we've got you covered and we look forward. Stay right where you are. You don't need to go further because with Woodside Park, you're always going to feel at home. Take care.